Hello, welcome back and welcome in. My name is Nikki Wheeler. I am a Twitch streamer and a YouTuber, so if you're interested in gaming, go subscribe to those two if you want to see my gaming live. Now, let's get into this video. Today's topic is going to be about Halloween the movie. It's an iconic slasher horror movie starting in 1978 and finally ending 44 years later in 2022. The new Halloween trilogy started in 2018 by director David Gordon Green, who wanted to revive the franchise and end it in a proper way that the other movies could not do. The first movie had a basic premise of the local babysitter getting stalked by a quote-unquote boogeyman, also known as Michael Myers or The Shape, who then becomes obsessed with her. Laurie Strode, who is played by Jamie Lee Curtis, is an average teenage girl who happened to be the first victim. She is constantly paranoid after her first encounter with him, and her friends don't even believe her until they meet their fate on Halloween night. Michael kills pretty much anyone in his path to get to Laurie, but never succeeds to actually reach and kill Laurie. This movie ends with Michael Myers disappearing into the autumn night after being shot off a balcony by his doctor, Dr. Loomis, who is played by Donald Pleasence. This new trilogy is supposed to cut out any movies afterwards, Halloween 2, all the way up until like Halloween H2O and so on. So this is moving into the future of 2019, 40 years later after this first initial incident in 1978. So Michael Myers seems to break out of the institution he was put in and goes home to Haddonfield, Illinois, assuming to find Laurie. Naturally, as a Michael Myers movie goes, he kills everyone in his path to get to her. Laurie's house has been modified to be military grade, filled with traps, levers, and multiple guns. It's basically a big booby trap for Michael to come into, so she can finally end this manhunt that she has had going on for 40 years. Michael does finally reach her and gets to her house, but not without a fight, of course. Lasting through brutal wounds, Michael ends up in the basement, which is now nailed shut with gas filling up the entire house. Laurie says the final goodbye and then lights the house on fire, thinking that would be the end. But it's never the end with Michael Myers, is it? This is the beginning of the next movie, Halloween Kills, also directed by David Gordon Green. Now this film, to me, seems to be like a really large filler, piling onto Michael's kill count, as the title says. Laurie is now at the hospital from the brawl she has had with Michael, and he is assumed to be dead. But to the saddened firefighters at the scene, they figure out he is still alive, and he ends up killing the whole fire force. He gets away and is looking for Laurie again. News gets around fast in such a small town, so Laurie tries to get up and fight, but she's in no shape to do so. So her daughter Karen, played by Judy Greer, and granddaughter Allison, played by Annie Matichuk, end up being the main fighters of this film. In fact, the whole town is fighting Michael, and in one of the final scenes, Michael is seen in the middle of the town getting together to beat him down once and for all. Now, while this 50v1 seems nearly impossible, he made it very much possible, killing almost every person in this ring trying to kill him, ending the night by killing Karen and running off into the night again. This ending personally really threw me off because the way they set up the fight and where Karen was makes no sense. The fight was not even a full street length away and had police and Allison outside of the house Karen was in, so how did Michael even get to Karen? I figured that this was going to be a dream or like nightmare type of ending, and at the beginning of the next film we would watch Karen waking up in a cold sweat. But no, Karen did get killed, and I think that is a sad way to let a character go, but I digress. Now into the final movie, Halloween Ends, the actual ending, hopefully. It has been now officially 4 years dormant. No more Michael Myers, no more Halloween killings in Haddonfield. Allison lives with Laurie now in an actual home and not a giant booby trap, and Laurie has officially taken on the challenge of talking about this 40-year-long trauma by writing a book, who was suggested by a friend, Deputy Hawkins, played by Will Patton, who was also in the original Halloween movie, playing a deputy. So let's just get this out of the way and start this off by saying that Allison is not a little girl anymore. And she wasn't in the first movie, but she's now like a full-grown adult who's like 22 years old. So she now works in the local urgent care as a nurse, starting to get into the dating world. Laurie manages to find a boy for her named Corey, who's played by Rowan Campbell. Corey's had a rough time because he was also a babysitter just like Laurie, but this last time he had babysat, unfortunately, the kid had died by an accident caused by Corey, which gave him a really bad name, being handled with police and all that type of mess. And there's kids going around town bullying him whenever they see him and calling him a freak show and other mean names because of this whole accident. And this is how Laurie found him. He was being bullied at a gas station while she was getting gas, and she thought he was a really nice guy, so she sent him Allison's way. And Allison does really like Corey and does give him a chance, and he gives off this bad boy vibe after discovering Michael Myers in his new hideout, which is in like a sewer, after he had gotten bullied and on the street at night and got thrown off a overpass of sorts, and he just, I don't know, that was a weird scene. But and Michael doesn't kill Corey at all, but he instead makes a silent pact with him to like do his bidding for the time being while he still heals, because I'm guessing he was in this sewer recovering from that massive 50v1 beatdown that he got a couple years ago. Corey seems to be in like a trance-like mindset after this encounter and only has it out for blood when it comes to the character who hurt him or do him wrong. I personally really liked Corey as a character because it gives off the vibe of he's this different person, but this encounter changed him. But deep down, he knows he's the same, like, smart, goofy type of kid that we met at the beginning of the movie. And Allison actually doesn't know anything about Corey and his murders that he seemed to be doing while they were dating. And neither did Laurie until she caught this weird feeling that she had that was similar to Michael Myers. So Laurie called the cops, reporting an unaliving attempt at her house address, knowing that someone was in her house, in which she thought it was Michael because it was like that iconic like back door open type of scene, and she thought this was her chance to finally end it. And this was actually a fake call alerting the person to her office which she was making this call in, and where she brilliantly, might I add, shot a pumpkin, making it seem like it was herself and catching this intruder off guard, which then gives Laurie the upper hand and a chance to shoot at this person.
Yes, I would like to report a suicide. 1206 Mills End Road. Did you really think I'd kill myself? to have compassion and find mercy. But what's the point?
And at this point, Allison is coming home and walking up the drive, and both of them know this, and Corey then stabs himself, and Lori tries to help, but it seems like a really bad mishap on her end because she walks in and assumes that she did this. Allison is now furious and crying and blaming Lori, so she gets up and leaves, and this is when Michael really does come into the house and finishing Corey off because that stab that he did to himself apparently didn't kill him. Again, a stupid and also impossible but necessary point in the film because it was Michael's first official kill. So after this happens, he grabs his mask, puts it on, and then Lori and Michael start duking it out in the house and ending in the kitchen where Michael has his hands pinned down with knives and a fridge on top of his legs. So he has no movement, and this is where Lori has the ending that she needed. She kills him officially 44 years later in a brutal way, obviously, and she made him suffer through it. This is when the town comes together and officially ends the reign of Michael Myers, the Shape, or the Boogeyman. They all treat this as like some sort of ceremony, and he's tied on top of Lori's car, and they all are like driving in a line with Lori's car being the leading car.
Michael.
He's dead. Not dead enough.
Isn't how we do it. You're all crazy. What are you doing? Where are you taking?
Time for Haddonfield to start healing.
Let's show them all.
This is not how it works.
It is tonight.
Stronger on radio silence. That's gotta be in command. Copy.
Let's go.
And they put him in this like industrial sized wood chipper or grinder to finish it off, to finalize his death, and that there really is no coming back from this one. And that's it. That is the movie. That is how it ends. There is no more Michael Myers. He is dead. And what did the internet have to say about it? What did the critics have to say? Well, it's not very good, to say the least. One publisher from AIPT Comics wrote, "Halloween Kills is a confusing cluster of uninspired storylines and awful writing that makes Halloween Kills looks almost masterpiece-like." And then he goes on to say, "We get quote-unquote closure only because the movie said we did." So they're essentially saying that it was rushed and the pacing was bad, the writing was bad, and we got the "he's dead," and that's it. That's what we were left with. And I can agree to that, like, to an extent, though, because yes, it was a closure ending. That was literally the whole point of this trilogy. But it was because it was needed. David Gordon Green only did this because he felt like Michael Myers wasn't getting any justice in these 20 other films, having no actual ending. This franchise has been through many, many years of bad story writing that it lost its essential plot and initial plot, trying to make the characters related, adding more family members, adding weird cults, changing identities, and so much more. But hell, even the third movie didn't even feature Michael at all, which I don't even know how that's even possible. But what this publisher forgot to mention was that with this trilogy, it's a direct movement from the original 1978 movie to 2018. None of these other stories matter, and adding characters like Corey was basically an essential way of ending it, because if they hadn't, Michael likely wouldn't have ever came out of the sewer that he was hiding in. And if he did, he probably wouldn't even be strong enough to do what he did in this film, like the fight with Laurie. The Grinder was an extremely brutal way, and probably even the most humane way the town could have ended things, because we've seen the town band together and become absolute savages to kill him, and they definitely could have done way worse. It's also one of the only ways of killing him, because there's no way he could possibly piece himself back together like Chucky did in his franchise with Child's Play 2 or 3. And with that being said, I think I will end that there. Halloween Ends, I believe, was a really good ending to the Halloween franchise, contrary to popular belief. It doesn't leave any loose ends. Michael is dead. Laurie and Allison are finally happy. They're out of town, and the only criticism I really have for this movie is the weird kills like Karen and Corey, because they just make no sense. But overall, it was a really wonderful movie and a good ending. I highly suggest you watch it, especially if you like horror movies like me. I believe all three of these movies are either on Amazon Prime Video, Vudu, Peacock, or Google Play. I will have to check on that, and I will comment if there is any changes to that. And I'm so glad you stuck around to watch. Leave me a like and a comment on what I should cover next. Until next time, bye guys.